We got to vote for justice.
In 2016, voter apathy left millions of ballots uncounted. Now one group is working to reverse that.
I like to take things apart, and see how they work.
It's neighbor helping neighbor with the ultimate goal to repair, not replace. A century after the Great War and the devastating pandemic, lessons from the past apply today.
This guy had sacrificed his life for his patients.
These stories and more next on City Stream. Hello, I'm Dennis Bounds, and welcome to City Stream from King County Elections in Renton. The work done here ensures an essential right of democracy is preserved. Gathering, verifying, and tabulating votes is complex work, and it's a big job. King County has 1.4 million registered voters, making it one of the nation's largest vote-by-mail jurisdictions. Much more on that just ahead. According to the United States Election Project, nearly half of all eligible voters, almost 109 million people, did not vote in 2016. Soon after and before the pandemic, a group of Seattle volunteers made it their mission to get out the vote across the country. Here's Mimi Gann with a story of common power.
Come on.
Meet Corey Prince of Racine, Wisconsin.
All right. Y'all want to follow us down there? Just follow us down there. Just follow us.
Where's y'all going?
Right here to City Hall.
For what?
To vote. To the vote we go. Yay! I'm excited.
In 2018, Corey spent his days driving people to the polls.
The main reason that I'm doing this is to try to educate and empower the people through their right to vote that people of color have fought and died and lost their lives for. And so we want to honor their legacy and don't trample on the sacrifice that they made for people like myself and for my community.
There's something more that's driving Corey, a former felon, to get out the vote.
Racine, Wisconsin has been listed as the 4th worst city for African Americans in the country by USA Today. The median income is for every dollar that a white person makes, African Americans make 60 cents. Southeastern Wisconsin also leads the United States of America in the highest incarceration rate for African American males. So like all of those things are so important.
We want them too.
They want y'all to come to the city hall so we can protest.
No, not no protest. We got to vote for justice.
If you go around and you ask a lot of African Americans here in the city, they don't seem to feel that way. And that the reason is complacency. They think that they're okay where they're at. And I'm not. I'm bringing the folks here to the polls, live and direct.
Okay, where are we headed? I'm going to try to get you fired up about voting.
Fighting alongside Corey are volunteers from Seattle, part of a civic action group called Common Power.
Do you know you can vote today?
You voted already, huh?
Yeah, he has voted.
Good, way to go, man. It's important to knock on these doors and tell these folks who are poor, who are lower middle class, that their vote matters.
University of Washington communications professor David Domke and former Starbucks manager Charles Douglas lead this team and hundreds of volunteers.
It's organic, it's great, it's bigger than I ever would have imagined.
Domke encourages young people of color to teach and lead the mostly older volunteers.
He knows that his position as a white educated professor, department chair is extremely powerful. And for him to be aware that he needs to make sure that young black and brown leaders are put in positions to succeed, for me is invaluable. So I'm rocking with David till the wheels fall off. Yeah.
This is my first time it being in Iowa as part of this experience.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
David and Charles also lead field trips to see democracy in action.
Running for office is an act of hope, and so is caucusing, volunteering, or being part of this process.
At the Iowa caucuses earlier this year, Common Power volunteers and donors got up close and personal to the vast field of presidential candidates.
We've got a lot more driving, a lot more talking to do. It's been exciting. We did a lot of knocking on doors today.
Go team!
Hi, are you Lucinda?
We're knocking on doors and making sure people vote.
We're going this way, right?
It's been great. My first time canvassing and I love it.
When Common Power sends volunteers to another state, it partners with a local organization to get out the vote.
I met some people that literally flew across the country to help us deal with our problems and our issues here in our city. And to me, that was just so encouraging that, you know, it actually compelled me to act more, you know.
For Corey and Common Power, the right to vote and fighting voter suppression have never been more important.
Here in the state of Wisconsin, when you're on probation or parole for a felony conviction, you do lose your right to vote. And so what happens is, actually, truthfully, what happens is the mentality to even vote dies, right? Because you're not telling other people to vote because you can't vote. For me personally, it's a blessing that, you know, I can say I'm no longer on parole and I have the right to vote and regain that right.
Every vote counts.
Engaging voters,
Go team!
building communities, and growing young leaders.
Everyone here lives in King County.
For Common Power volunteers, the experience has been empowering and rewarding.
I'm registered.
And you're going to do it.
Yes,
I've really stepped it up to that next level of active engagement, which means walking streets, knocking doors, getting on a plane, meeting with like-minded people who want to do the same thing. And this is a whole level more satisfying, and I think is making a bit bigger impact.
It's touched my soul.
Absolutely, I would do it again.
I appreciate everybody for making the commitment to vote. It's so important.
Amen.
There's nothing that we can change by being silent. That's real talk.
Because the most common power we should all have is the power of our vote.
We're gonna knock on as many doors as possible, and we're gonna do it until we can't walk anymore, because there's a lot at stake. The country's at stake.
Was this your first time? Congratulations. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Rock that sticker, take the picture with me, hashtag I voted and tag me in it. Rock that vote.
The pandemic has forced Common Power to pivot, but it's paying off big time. Its 600 active volunteers have fanned out across 23 states. They've been busy calling, texting, and sending out postcards and letters. Since April, Common Power has reached more than 900,000 voters. In a related note, an unprecedented number of people are taking part in early voting nationwide. Some have waited in line up to 10 hours to do something that typically takes just 10 minutes to complete. As of October 21st, a record 29 million Americans have already cast their ballots in this election. Up next, much more on King County's vote-by-mail election process. And if you have a household item that needs fixing, we have just the solution. That's ahead on City Stream. And welcome back to City Stream, and we're at King County Elections headquarters in Renton. And with us is Julie Weiss, who is the King County Elections Director. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for being here.
You mailed 1.4 million ballots to the 1.4 registered voters in the county. What do you expect the turnout to be?
You know, we've issued a challenge to King County voters to turn out at 90%. It's a big goal, it's an ambitious goal, but I believe King County voters are up for it. That would mean nearly 1.3 million ballots back here to King County Elections Facility.
Is that a record 90%?
That would be a record for sure here in King County. And they're already breaking records, and ballots just went out a few days ago, so I think it could happen.
I received my ballot just recently, and a lot of people along with me are voting early. They're going to the ballot drop boxes quickly, and some of those drop boxes are filling up awfully fast. How do you handle that problem?
They are filling up. We have 73 locations now across King County. That means that we're serving 96% of our voters with a drop box within just a 3-mile radius of their home. But there's been a lot of excitement out there from our voters. The drop boxes are filling up quickly, and we're sending crews around starting at 5 a.m. all the way late into the evenings to go pick up those ballots. We're seeing 80, 90,000 ballots per day at those drop boxes. If voters see any issues, they should flag us on social media and we'll be right out there. But we're constantly going around to all those boxes to make sure that they're empty.
The president and others have questioned the security of mail-in voting. What can you, obviously you don't want to reveal any secrets, but what little can you tell us about some of the physical and cybersecurity measures that you've taken to ensure the validity of the vote?
I think it's important for voters to know that vote by mail is not only a secure, safe form of election, it's also the most accessible. We've taken a lot of procedures and protocols here at King County Elections, implemented a lot of procedures to make sure that we're safeguarding our elections process. Here at our state-of-the-art elections facility, it was specifically designed for processing mail ballots. We have over 60 cameras in the facility monitoring access 24/7. And if you want to get into a secure area like we're here, you're going to need a badge. And for our highly secure areas where the ballots are located, you're also going to need biometric. Not only do we have that, but we have seals. And of course, one of the best things about vote by mail is we have that old school piece of paper to go back to. So if there's any need for a recount or an audit of the elections, we always have that paper that we're going to keep for 22 months here for this election. I think what's really important for people to know is that the tabulation system here at King County Elections is completely off the network. It's not connected to the internet in any way whatsoever, so people couldn't hack into our results here at King County Elections. I was also the first in the country to ask the Department of Homeland Security to come and do a physical audit of our security here at King County Elections. We have been planning and preparing for this presidential election for years. Voters should feel confident that vote by mail here in King County and Washington State is not only safe and secure, it's also accessible and accurate.
What if you are a registered voter in this county and you have not received a ballot now? What do you do?
If you have not received a ballot, you should be giving us a call, sending us an email, reaching out. You can get a hold of us at 206-296-VOTE or onto our website at kingcounty.gov/elections.
Okay, you have your ballot. What's the deadline? When does it have to be postmarked and or put into a drop box?
If voters are going to use the United States Postal Service to return their ballot, I highly recommend that you have it in the mail stream by the Friday before Election Day. If you're going to use one of those drop boxes out there, you need to get it in before 8 p.m. They're going to close sharply at 8 o'clock per law. So either option is a great way to return your ballot. Either way, you can track your ballot right on our website to ensure that it gets back into our hands.
What if you're in line at a ballot drop box and it's 8 o'clock?
If you are in line at a drop box or at one of our vote centers by 8 o'clock, you are on time. So have no fear. We'll make sure, even if it takes time after 8 o'clock, your vote is still going to be counted this election.
And finally, if someone doesn't know where the drop boxes are, how do they find out?
Go onto our website to see where your closest ballot drop box is. It's also located in that ballot packet we mailed and also the voter's pamphlet. Please do take a look because we've added new drop boxes since our last election, so there might be one closer to you.
Julia Weiss, who's Elections Director for King County, thanks for being with us, and best of luck from now until the very last ballot is counted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just ahead on City Stream, it's neighbor helping neighbor, working to give worn-out appliances new life. It is called the Fixers Collective, a group of people that volunteer their time to fix household items for anyone who walks into their monthly meetup. It's their way to help the environment by keeping stuff out of landfills. And as producer Layla Cosme reports, they just love to fix things.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
I got this and I thought it was okay and I was excited about it and I got the bob and winder to work,
right,
but then it started to just like go on its own. It sounded like it was gonna fly to the moon.
Oh, okay, without hitting this?
Without hitting that.
The Fixers Collective is a bunch of people that originated from the PNA, the Finney Ridge Association. It's a volunteer organization. We have anywhere from 4 to 8 people as fixers, and we all just want to fix things.
Okay. The Greenwood Hardware hosts us, but this is a program of the PNA.
Some people want to keep things out of landfills. I'm more just, I like to take things apart, yeah, and see how they work. Everything has basic features. We have the switch, we have contacts for the batteries. This is a little bent.
Part of the problem is things are being built so that they're disposable. I had a microwave that stopped working, and I'm not afraid to tear into things, like you said. If it's broken, you can't break it anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I tore into it. $5 switch was all that was wrong with it.
Awesome.
Set. All together. So we can test it before we put the screws back in, see what it does.
Oh yeah, now it's working.
So that part that I bent probably was the problem. Might have been dropped in such a way that the battery pushed the little plate in.
I dropped several times on hard ground.
Most people don't admit that.
Keeping these out of landfill, keeping another one from having to be built, it reduces my carbon footprint quite a bit, and just the clutter of our lives. So, you know, if you can fix things, it's a lot more advantageous than throwing it away and buying a new one.
It makes sense all around. You reduce waste, you learn stuff, and you don't spend as much money replacing things.
They're always so helpful, and you walk in the door and they're right there. What's your problem? And you show them a nut or a screw and they go, we got it for you.
Everything's for free. We don't charge for our time. This is the stuff I have, and if it comes out of here, it's free.
We've moved here in 1976, and that's when we bought the lamps.
So I guess what we want to do is go out and see if they have a socket for us.
When we're here at the store, we have more resources of items off the shelf.
3 ways what you need, okay?
If they use anything out of the store, they need to pay for it.
Ever since I was a kid, I've been fixing stuff. I rebuilt my brother's Volkswagen when I was 15, or the engine on the car. I just enjoy fixing things. It's fun to do.
I hate broken stuff. I've gone to hotels and fixed sinks and drains and outlets and stuff.
At the first
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
I bought these in Rwanda. They're just not turning on anymore.
And you see this is threaded right here,
Uh-huh.
and right up above this is threaded.
Okay.
Okay, so it's gonna take a shank, and that means that this will have to be on, yeah, good. Unscrewed, both of those, put the shank on, and then screw them both back together.
Okay.
It's a good chance there will be something up front, and you,
That I'll need to
even
go.
better way to go. Okay.
And so we have some people that have a broken lamp that we can't fix, and we will scrap pieces out of it and reuse them in somebody else's project.
It's fun. We do this for fun and curiosity, and our mission is to build community.
There's got to be a great story behind Rwanda.
People come here who are perfect strangers, and they leave friends.
My dad picked one up a while ago. That's why I found this
Small one.
one.
Yep.
It was not repairable, but we kind of were working on it for a while. So I learned like the basics.
Good for him. I mean,
yeah.
props to your dad.
Yeah. Well, it reminded him of his mom. And you know, he's never talked about his mom at all, ever, until he saw this sewing machine. When I found this one, we were both kind of really excited.
Ready?
Ready. Okay.
That's good. Seems to really change it.
Okay.
Okay. Whoa.
You got way more than a sewing machine, and you know that, right?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, right, the other.
I'm sure it actually works twice.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, success!
Wow, marvelous, marvelous.
I can read bed again.
There's a Fictors Collective in Northeast Seattle. They meet weekly. There's one, I believe, in West Seattle as well. Portland is very active, so there's several around here. It's quite a movement.
Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without.
Unfortunately, the pandemic has forced the group to take a break from fixing things, but they hope to resume their work in the near future. Next on City Stream, as Veterans Day nears, we look back on the Great War and how lessons learned a century ago apply today. Each year, the 11th day of the 11th month is Veterans Day, a holiday to honor all who've served in the military. The date coincides with the end of World War I back in 1918. That was a time of profound change in Seattle. And as the war was ending, another war was being waged against a pandemic many compared to the crisis we face today. Enrique Cerno looks back.
It was the war, the Great War, the war to end all wars, the war to make the world safe for democracy. And that's the way Seattle people thought about it.
More than 60,000 Washingtonians enlist to serve in the various branches of the military. Nationally, 2 million men volunteer and 2.8 million are drafted. An estimated 350,000 African Americans serve, along with Native Americans and others from communities of color. Women play a significant role in the war effort. Many don uniforms for the first time as part of support organizations. They serve as nurses on the Seattle home front and overseas.
This was a helmet that my grandfather, William Hazeltine, brought back from World War I. He picked it up on the battlefield. I think it was Verdun.
Crosscut columnist Knut Berger was 10 years old when his grandfather gave him this German helmet as a birthday gift.
I became interested in military history, partly because of his experiences in World War I.
The helmet was among the trunkloads of souvenirs his grandfather brought back from the battlefields of France.
Not only helmets and guns, he brought back a bunch of grenades of different kinds, and years later we found out that some of them were live, at least one that had been displayed on the wall that I remember as a child. He kept a diary. He took a lot of photos when he was over there.
William Ebenezer Hazeltine was in his 40s when he decided to join up to serve in World War I.
My favorite picture of him is he's standing in I think it looks like it's next to a bombed out German pillbox or something, and he's got one leg up and a big smile on his face, his helmet's on at a jaunty angle, and you can tell he's having a blast.
He served in General John Pershing's American Expeditionary Force, putting to good use his skills as an engineer.
His expertise was supply, making sure that the Army was supplied and figuring out how to supply it. He had absolutely zero doubts about, was it a righteous war? Who was on the right side? No qualms about fighting in it. It was a righteous cause as far as he was concerned.
In the waning days of the war, the Spanish influenza pandemic would hit Seattle. The outbreak would take the lives of millions worldwide. Seattle would be infected by a trainload of troops.
In November of 1918, when the epidemic was really, really intense, if you were seen spitting on the sidewalk, you had to pay a $5 fine instantly. The schools were closed, churches, synagogues, temples were closed, public transportation was closed. 1,600 people did die in King County of influenza.
Knut Berger's father was 4 years old when the epidemic hit here. In a memoir, he recalls how his mother was stricken with the virus.
He remembers his father calling him in and his mother lying there really on her deathbed, and there was a great question as to whether she was going to survive the night. The doctor was there, and he and his father kind of sat vigil with her. But he said, she was alive the next morning and she survived.
But the doctor did not.
We discovered that he died of influenza just a couple of days later. My father was a doctor also, and I think that was. I think that you could tell in his oral history that really affected him, that knowledge that this guy had sacrificed his life for his patients.
The Great War ends as Germany formally surrenders on November 11th, 1918. In Seattle, there are parades and celebrations, but also the indelible memory of loss. More than 1,600 Washingtonians lost their lives, and many others were scarred by the conflict.
I think the decade 1910 to 1920 is the most powerful and interesting decade in Seattle's history in the 20th century. And there's not an aspect of life you can look at that wasn't transformed.
The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 infected an estimated 500 million people, about 1/3 of the world's population at the time. Back then, Seattle Mayor Ole Hansen ordered a shutdown of many indoor gathering spots. This headline from the Seattle Daily Times, dated October 5th, 1918, reports churches, schools, and shows were ordered to close. Finally, we end on a bright note. The city of Seattle has opened up a new waterfront park on the shores of Portage Bay, near the University of Washington. It's only 3.5 acres, but it is spectacular. Producer Vincent Pierce has a look.
We are at the brand new, just opened yesterday, Fritz Hedges Park. This is our newest one.
I'd been running this route a bunch, and the fence, you know, I was just like the little kid, like looking in the window, couldn't wait till it got open.
I mean, it's not very often we get to develop new waterfront parks, so they come along very, very infrequently, as you can imagine.
We have been waiting for the last 2 years for this park to open up, and peering through and imagining the possibilities, and we're so excited that the fence has come down and there's people and they're here enjoying it, there's children playing, and I think it's going to be just a wonderful amenity for the city.
Opening up our access to the waterways, allowing kayaks to have a place to safely put in is really huge.
So the vision is this really great kind of south-facing waterfront park, which you get the big panoramic view of the open sky, and so it's really passive open space for folks to come and, you know, bring their lunch, relax, read a book.
You've got crew boats going by, you've got houseboats across the way, you've got drawbridges going up and down. We saw, what was that thing called? A hydrofoil. I hadn't seen one of those in a long time. It is just quintessential Seattle, all within one park.
Given what everyone's been dealing with this year, to give folks additional opportunities to get outside and just be outside is, you know, super important to us. So it's great to see people using it, and we're happy that people are out here.
It's a lovely park. It's just great.
And that wraps up this episode of City Stream from King County Elections Headquarters in Renton. Remember, your ballot must be postmarked by November 3rd, or you can drop off your ballot at any of the 73 ballot drop box locations in King County, but you must do so by 8 p.m. election night. I'm Dennis Bounds. Thanks for watching.